Okay, good morning, my dear students. And we can directly go into our classes. That is, in the last class, we have discussed about fiber, that is, woolen fibers, that is, the processing of wool fiber into woolen yarns, right? So, mainly we are discussing this chapter, we are discussing about animal fibers. First one is wool that we have already completed, right? So, in this class, we have to discuss about silk. That is, silk is also a animal fiber, right? So, we have to discuss about silk, right? So, you may know or you can ask to a mother or grandmother, like any person who are aware of these silk sarees or silk materials like that. There are different varieties of silks are available in our market, like so you can ask there what are the different varieties of silk, and you can ask them to show the different kind of or different varieties of silk sarees like that. Okay, so you just know there are different varieties of silk, and these different varieties of silks are obtained from different varieties of silk moths. Okay, so before going to that detailed processing of silk into silk sarees or silk yarns, we have to look into the life history of silk moth. Okay, so now we are going to see the life history of silk moth. So, silkworm is but a caterpillar stage of silk moth. So, we know silk is obtained from silkworm. Okay, so the silkworm is a caterpillar stage of what? Silk moth. And before that, we know but first the silk moth, the female silk moth lays eggs on any leaves. Suppose if we are discussing about mulberry silkworm, then we can say the female silk moth lays eggs on the leaves of mulberry tree. Okay, so the female silk moth lays eggs from which hatch larvae which are called caterpillars or silkworms. Okay, so these eggs will convert into or gradually forms silkworm. Okay, so these silkworms are also known as caterpillar stage of silk moth. Okay, so first thing is but the female silk moth, female silk moth lays eggs. Okay, first stage, eggs on leaves. If you are discussing or if you are mainly thinking about mulberry silkworm, then the legs are laid on mulberry leaves. Okay, so first thing, female silk moth lays eggs. Okay, so from these eggs, it gradually forms what? Then it forms what? Caterpillars, or we can say caterpillars as the silkworms. Okay, so caterpillar is also known as silkworms. So second stage is caterpillars. Okay, so caterpillars is also known as what? Silkworms. Okay, so caterpillars is also known as silkworms. Okay, so what is next? What happens to these silkworms? Then they grow in size, and when caterpillars is ready to enter in the next stage of life, that is what is the next stage? The third stage is pupa. Okay, so before going to this stage, what they do? They start weaving a net to hold themselves. Okay, so what they did, they weaves a net to hold itself, and then they swings their head side by side in the form of figure 8. That is, in the form of figure 8 means like this. They weaves or they sinks their heads like this, and it will form a structure like this. And how it happens, that is, the caterpillars sinks their head like this, that is in the form of figure 8, and by doing this they secrete a silk fiber, that is they secrete a protein fiber. That protein fiber will expose to air, and then it makes what? Silk fibers. Okay, so here it is given, you can read that. Then then it swings its head from side to side in the form of a figure 8, and during this movement of head, the caterpillar secrete fiber made up of protein, which hardens on exposure to air and becomes silk fiber. Okay, hope you understand how it happens. Okay, so before going to pupa stage, what the caterpillars do? Making what? Silk fibers. That is, they secrete what? A silk fiber, or they secrete a fiber made up of protein, and when it comes to expose to air, it hardens and then become silk fiber. Okay, so soon the caterpillar completely covers itself by silk fiber and turns it into pupa. Okay, so within a time they completely covers their body, and then pupa is inside that covering. Okay, so this covering is known as what? Cocoon. So this covering of silk fiber is known as cocoon. Okay, so the further development of the pupa into moth continues inside the cocoon. Okay, so now the cocoon is inside this, now the pupa is inside this cocoon. So further development happens inside this cocoon. Okay, so that is about the life history of, or life history of silk moth. Okay, the first stage, female moth lays eggs on a mulberry leaves. If you are talking about mulberry worm, mulberry silk moth, then we can see here all the pictures are given here. This male moth and its female moth, and the female moth lays eggs on some leaves. Suppose it's mulberry leaves, and then it comes to what? It grows into silkworm or caterpillar, and then before going to pupa stage, they started weaving a net to hold themselves. That is, they make what? Cocoon. That is, cocoon is made up of what? Silk fiber. Okay, so this is cocoon. Inside this cocoon, but inside this cocoon there is pupa stage. So then pupa stage, further development of that pupa stage happens inside that cocoon. So here it is given that cocoon with developing moth is given here. Okay, so all the figures are given to you in your textbook. So that is about the life history of silk moth. So now we know from where or the silk fiber is obtained, or the silk yarn is obtained. The silk yarn or silk thread is obtained from cocoon of silk moth, right? Okay, so there are a wide variety of silk moths are found. Okay, so different variety of silk moth will give different variety of silk fiber. Okay, so in the first, the beginning of this class, I said that you can ask your mother or grandmother, any other person who knows about this silk. There are different variety of silk sarees, right? So these different varieties comes from different silk moths or different variety of cocoons, right? So this here it is given that there are a variety of silk moths which look very different from one another, and silk yarn they yield is different in texture. That is, they give some of them give fine threads, or that means fine fibers, or some of them will give coarse fibers, that means some are hard fibers, and some of them will give more lustrous, means what, shiny fibers, like that. So these different varieties will have different textures of fiber, right? So in the case of our woolen fibers, there are different variety of what fibers are there. Woolen fibers are there, coarse fiber, fine fibers, like that. Like that, here also different moths or different cocoons, different variety of silk moths will give different variety of silk fibers. Okay. So it is given, some examples are given: Tassar silk, Muga silk, Kosa silks, etc. obtained from what, cocoons spun by different type of moth. Okay, these are some examples of different silk fibers, that is Tassar silk, Muga silk, Kosa silk, like that. Okay. The most common silk moth is the mulberry silk moth. We are familiar with that mulberry silk moth, right? We are, some of us will see the silk moth, right? That is mulberry silk moth. Okay. Anyway, the most common silk moth is what? Mulberry silk moth. The silk fiber from the cocoon of this moth is soft, lustrous, and elastic, and can be dyed in beautiful colors. So, in the case of woolen fibers, we already know we have what, white or black or brown hairs. Okay, directly we get from sheep only these colors, white, brown or black. So after some process we can dye it, right? We can dye it to different colors. Like that we can dye the different varieties of what, silk fibers into different colors. Okay, so the common mulberry silk moth will give what kind of fiber? Soft, lustrous, and elastic fiber, and that can be dyed into different beautiful colors. Okay, lustrous means somewhat what? Some glazing. It has some glazing. Okay, so tilakkamulla fibers aanu what, mulberry silk moths നൽകുന്നത്. Okay, so this is all about what, life cycle or about silk fiber, how the silk fiber obtained, or from what stage of the life history of silk moth we get silk fiber. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now you may know what we can see, or we can say the culture or rearing of silkworm. The rearing of silkworm is termed as sericulture. That is, here the rearing of silkworm for obtaining silk is called sericulture. So many in different part of our country, the silkworms are cultured or silkworms are reared for getting what, silk fibers. So this is termed as, or this is known as sericulture. The rearing of silkworms for obtaining silk fibers are known as what, sericulture. That is sericulture. Okay, so what is sericulture? Rearing of silkworms for obtaining silk is called sericulture. And there is an activity given to you, that is collect piece of silk moth of various type, or collect piece of silk cloths, right? So there may be a different kind of silk cloths obtained from different kind of silk moths or cocoons, right? So you can collect pieces of silk cloths of various types and paste them in your scrapbook. You have a scrapbook, right? And you have to paste some what, in the first portion we discussed, or we saw the activity to paste to collect pictures of different wool yielding animals, and you have to scrap it into a book, right? Okay, so you can also collect different silk cloths and paste them in your scrapbook. Okay. So that you can do. Okay. And another activity that you can also do your own. Okay. If you get the actual silk thread and some other but artificial silk means silk made by synthetic silk or man-made silk, right? That is artificial silk. So nowadays the silk sarees are made by artificial method, or the silk threads are obtained in synthetic way. Okay, so if you get synthetic fiber as well as, or synthetic silk or artificial silk as well as what, natural silk, you can do the activity 3.6, unless it is what, suppose there is no chance to get this natural silk and what, artificial silk, you can get anywhere. Okay, so if you get that, you can do the activity. Now we can see the processing of what, cocoon into silk. Okay, so we can see the processing. For obtaining moths are reared and their cocoons are collected to get silk threads. Okay, so first thing is what, rearing of silk moth, that is sericulture. Okay, so first we have to rear silk moth, and then their cocoons are collected to get silk threads. Okay, we know silk thread is obtained from cocoons. Okay, so we have to get cocoon, or we have to collect cocoons, and we can do, or we can see these stages one by one. Okay, first one, rearing silkworms. Rearing silkworm include what, a female silk moth lays hundreds of eggs at a time. Okay, so in this figure you can see, the first figure you can see there are a lot of eggs. Okay, so at a time the female silk moth lays hundreds of eggs. Okay, so these eggs are stored carefully on a what, strip of cloth or paper and sold to silkworm farmers. Okay, first we have to collect the eggs, right? First we have to collect or store the eggs carefully, and then it will give into what, silkworm farmers. The farmers keeps the egg under hygienic condition and under suitable condition of temperature and humidity. Okay, first we have to collect the eggs carefully, and then from where we get this worm, from where we get these eggs. The female silk moth lays hundreds of eggs at a time. Okay, so we collect that eggs on a what, strip of cloth or paper and carefully give them into what, silkworm farmers. And these farmers keep the eggs under hygienic conditions. That these eggs needs very hygienic condition and will have a suitable temperature and humidity. Okay, so they keeps them under sustainable condition of temperature and humidity. Okay, the eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature for the larva to hatch from the eggs. So from the eggs to this caterpillar stage, what they have to do what, the eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature for the larva to hatch from the eggs. Okay, so then what form, silkworms are formed. This is done when mulberry trees bears a fresh crop of leaves. The larvae called caterpillars or silkworm eat day and night and increase enormously in size. That means the silkworm farmers will make the hygienic condition or suitable temperature or humidity like that, and then the eggs are warmed to suitable temperature, then the caterpillars are formed, and these caterpillars eat mulberry leaves day and night. They have only that thing to do. Okay, so they eat mulberry leaves day and night. So this is done during a stage where the mulberry have, but when the mulberry trees bears a fresh crop of leaves. Okay, mulberry fresh leaves ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന ടൈമിലാണ് ഈ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടക്കുന്നത്. So that the caterpillars can eat mulberry leaves, soft mulberry leaves. That means the fine, that means the fresh leaves they can eat, and they will grow enormously in size. Okay, so the larvae are kept in, then the larvae are kept in clean bamboo trays along with the freshly chopped mulberry leaves. Then when these caterpillars are formed after this stage, then they kept in a clean bamboo trays along with the freshly chopped mulberry leaves. So this stage, after this stage, they have to eat mulberry leaves. So when they kept into bamboo trays, along with them some freshly chopped mulberry leaves are kept inside. Okay, so after 25 to 30 days, the caterpillars stop eating and move to a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. Okay, so this bamboo tray is made by the farmers. Okay, so that bamboo trays have some kind of chamber. Okay, so after this stage, that is silkworm stage, then before entering to pupa, we said they made cocoon. Okay, they will make cocoon. So to make this cocoon, what they do, they move into a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. Okay, and small racks or twigs may be provided in the trays to which cocoons get attached. So this setup is made by our farmers. That means the bamboo trays, and inside that bamboo trays some chambers are there, and inside that some racks or twigs are there. For what? This will provide the cocoons to attach in that trays or the chambers, right? So the caterpillars or silkworm spin the cocoon inside which develops the silk moth. That means inside this cocoon there is pupa, and after it will develop into what? It will develop into silk moth, adult silk moth. Okay, it will develop into adult silk moth. Okay, that is the last final stage. So these are done inside this bamboo chamber. Okay, bamboo trays. So that is the rearing of silkworms. So what do you understand? Rearing of silkworms. അതായത് റിയറിംഗ് ഓഫ് സിൽക്ക് വർംസിൽ ആദ്യം ഫസ്റ്റ് സിൽക്ക് വർംസിന് സിൽക്ക് മോത്ത് നൽകുന്ന എഗ്സ് കളക്ട് ചെയ്യും. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ലേ ഹൺഡ്രഡ്സ് ഓഫ് എഗ്സ് അറ്റ് എ ടൈം. അതായത് ആ എഗ്സ് കെയർഫുള്ളി കളക്ട് ചെയ്ത് സിൽക്ക് വർം ഫാമേഴ്സിൻ്റെ കയ്യിൽ കൊടുക്കും. They will give suitable conditions to that eggs and to grow these caterpillars. Okay, so these caterpillars are then eat mulberry leaves. These mulberry leaves, the fresh mulberry leaves they will eat. Okay, so this process or the rearing is done during what stage? When the mulberry leaves have fresh crop of leaves. Okay, സോ ആ ടൈമിലാണ് റിയറിങ് സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടൈം. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദെൻ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ്? Caterpillar stage കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ then pupa stage. Before entering to pupa stage, they will make cocoons. Okay, so the larva stage then kept into clean bamboo trays. അതായത് ക്ലീൻ ബാംബൂ ട്രേസ് ഫാമേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. ആ ക്ലീൻ ബാംബൂ ട്രേസിലേക്ക് ദീസ് കാറ്റർപില്ലേഴ്സിനെ നമ്മൾ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യും. ആൻഡ് along with these caterpillars, then what they give chopped mulberry leaves to eat them. Okay, ആ caterpillars-ന് കഴിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി മൾബറി ലീവ്സ്, ഫ്രഷ് മൾബറി ലീവ്സ് കൊടുക്കും. ക്രഷ് ചെയ്ത ഫ്രഷ് മൾബറി ലീവ്സും കൊടുക്കും. Then they eat that mulberry leaves, and after when they grow and before going to this pupa stage, that they will make cocoons. Okay, so ആ cocoons മേക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഒരു 25 to 30 ഡേയ്സിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിലാണ്. ആഫ്റ്റർ 25 to 30 days they begin to make these cocoons. And ആ സ്റ്റേജിൽ what they do, അവർ ഈ ബാംബൂ ട്രേസിൽ ഫാമേഴ്സ് ടൈനി ചേമ്പേഴ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടൈനി ഗ്രൂവ്സ് ആൻഡ് ട്വിഗ്സ്, ദാറ്റ് മീൻസ് സം കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ചെറിയ ഒരു ചെറിയ ചുള്ളികൾ ഒക്കെ വെച്ച് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടാവും, ചെറിയ കമ്പുകൾ, സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈ കൊക്കൂൺസിന് അറ്റാച്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന തരത്തിൽ. സോ ദിസ് ബാംബൂ ട്രേ ഈസ് ആർട്ടിഫിഷ്യലി മെയ്ഡ് ഫോർ ദിസ് റിയറിങ്. ഓക്കെ, ദ ഫാമേഴ്സ് ആണ് ഈ ബാംബൂ ട്രേസ് ഇത്ര സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ ആയിട്ട് ഈ കാറ്റർപില്ലേഴ്സിന് കൊക്കൂൺസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് അത്രയും സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ കണ്ടീഷൻസ് ഫാമേഴ്സ് ആണ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി കൊടുക്കുന്നത്. അതായത് ബാംബൂ ചേമ്പറിൽ ടൈനി ഗ്രൂവ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടൈനി ട്വിഗ്സ്, റാഗ്സ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. അതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ കയറിയിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ അറ്റാച്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് ഈ കൊക്കൂൺസ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, ആൻഡ് ഇൻസൈഡ് ദാറ്റ് കൊക്കൂൺ then pupa development is happen, right? Then inside that cocoon pupa ഉണ്ടാവും. പ്യൂപ്പയിൽ നിന്ന് പിന്നെ അത് എന്തായി മാറും? സിൽക്ക് മോത്ത് ആയിട്ട് മാറും. ഓക്കെ, so that is rearing of silkworms. And after this, what we have to do? Processing of silk. So what is the stages involved in this processing? Here it is. A pile of cocoon is used for obtaining silk fibers. That means a pile of cocoon means ഒരു കൂട്ടം cocoons. That means there are lot of cocoons, which means at a time the silk moth lays hundreds of eggs. These hundreds of eggs will grow into hundreds of caterpillars. That hundreds of caterpillars will make hundreds of cocoons, right? So this pile of cocoons is used for obtaining silk fibers. Okay, so the cocoons are kept under the sun or boiled or exposed to steam. Okay, so these cocoons are then exposed to steam or exposed to sun or they boiled. Okay, the silk fibers are separated out. When they exposed to the sun or exposed to steam, the silk fibers are separated out. Okay, the process of taking out threads from the cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. That means we have to get the silk fibers from this cocoon. Okay, so what we have to do? We have to expose this cocoon into sun or steam, or they have to boil. Okay, so when they exposed it to steam or when they exposed it to sun, what happens? The silk fibers separated out. This process is known as reeling of silk. That is reeling of silk. What we can, so that is reeling of silk. And reeling is done in special machines which unwind the threads of fibers or threads of silk fibers from cocoon. And silk fibers are then spun into silk threads which are woven into silk cloth by viewers. That means we discuss the processing. First we have to rear the silk moth. That is rearing. Okay. First thing is rearing. And second thing is that is this rearing is done during what season? When the mulberry have when the mulberry bears fresh leaves. Okay. That stage that rearing is done. And second stage is what? Reeling of silk. Okay. Reeling of silk or reeling the silk. Reeling the silk. That is the second stage. Okay. So this is how we get silk yarns or how we get silk fibers to spun into silk threads, and it will given to what weavers that will they will make silk sarees. Okay, like that. So hope you understand how the cocoon becomes silk threads. Okay, so these are the stages. Rearing involves what? Rearing, we already discussed rearing, and reeling is what? Separating out the silk fiber from cocoon. That is reeling. Okay, so these are the steps involved. And here we completed silk. Okay, so there is some boxes are given. That is, in India, women are significantly involved in various kind of industries related to silk production, and there are rearing of silk, reeling of silk from cocoons, and processing of raw silk into fabric. By their enterprise, they contribute to nation's economy. That is, this is the process. What is from cocoon to silk? In India, women are significantly involved in these various processes. Okay, so they contribute our nation's economy. Okay, so China is the first nation, or China leads the world in silk production, and India also ranks among the leading silk producing countries. So discovery of silk is come from where? From China. Here it is given that it's not an exact fact, it is the non-fact. We don't know what exactly, how exactly it comes, or what is the exact discovery of silk. Okay, so you can read this. The exact time of discovery of silk is perhaps unknown. Okay, according to an old Chinese legend, the Empress Cl8 was asked by the Emperor Huangdi to find the cause of the damaged leaves of mulberry trees growing in their garden. That means, we know caterpillars eat mulberry leaves, right? So the emperor noticed that their mulberry leaves get damaged. Okay, so the empress found white worms eating up mulberry leaves. She also noticed that they were spinning shiny cocoons around them. So she found that. Okay, so she found that they were spinning shiny cocoons around them. Accidentally, a cocoon dropped into her cup of tea and tangled of delicate threads separated from the cocoon. So we know how the threads of silk fibers are separated. The cocoons are exposed to heat or steam, right? So here, accidentally a cocoon dropped into her cup of tea and a tangle of delicate threads separate from the cocoon. Okay, silk industry began in China and was kept a closely guarded secret for hundreds of years. That is, later on traders and travelers introduced silk to other countries. The road they traveled is still called the Silk Road. So first silk is What first silk discovered in China. It is said that the China is the most leading silk production in all the countries. Okay, so that is the discovery of silk. Okay, so that's about this chapter. That is, in this chapter we have discussed wool and silk. Okay, hope you all understand. Hope you understood what we have discussed so far. Okay, so this is all about fiber to fabric. So now we know how the woolen fiber come into what woolen yarns or that fiber into fabric. Okay, and also we know what silk into silk fiber into silk thread or silk fabrics, right? So this is all about the chapter fiber to fabric. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can ask me and try to do the activities that is given in your textbook. Okay, so we can wind up today. Hope you understand all the things so that we have discussed so far. Okay, so goodbye children and see you in the next class. Okay.